guys, it's ThaTimster again. I'm going to be finishing my tutorial series on how to make a lens flare in the Blender game engine. So let's get started. Open up a new blend file, or new project in Blender, and straight away go to the top here, change it to Blender game engine, and then X, delete the cube, Shift A, plane, press S, make it nice and big, just like that. As right click, select the camera, and then press Alt R to get rid of all the rotation, and Alt G, get rid of the location. Then we're going to press 5 on the numpad, make it orthographic instead of perspective. And then I'm going to press 1, go to front view, and move this up. Then press R90, and then RX90. There we go, it's camera setup. Then Shift A cube, move it up, scale it down a little bit, and go across here for physics, change it to collision bounds. Then click the camera, parent it to this cube, and Control P, and parent to object. Now after you've done that, this cube here can't be static, it has to be dynamic. So when you press play, the cube falls down, it's all good. Okay, render settings, change to GLSL first, and just 60 FPS, just because we can. Then, so we know if we're moving or not, we're going to go and give this a material, the floor, the plane. Go into the materials, then go into textures after you add a new one, image or movie, UV, open, and I just got some random grass texture from CG Textures, just free, you can use it for whatever. So just press tab, U, unwrap, and we go into UV image editor. There's our thing, plane we unwrapped. Going to click grass, and then S, make it nice and big, and textured mode, and that's still texture's too big, so press S again, and keep on moving your mouse till it's a decent size. So I think that's good. Yeah, that's fine. And now for lighting, so I can actually see something, just put that to Hemi, so we can see what we're doing. And yeah, that's the main setup. So now we're going to go get this cube to move. So this is just basic sort of first person moving around, nothing special. So we're going to select our cube, which the camera's parented to. Then we're going to go keyboard, W, another keyboard, S, another keyboard, and one more, A and D. You can select true on all of them. It just means when you're holding them down, it's still counting it, and it doesn't just do the same thing once, it keeps on doing it. And actually, faster way to do this, we just go motion, add 4 of those, there we go, and connect them up like that. There we go. And now you're going to want to go into the motion settings for the first one, and judging by where the camera's going, camera's looking this way, so we want the opposite of X, so minus 0.1. Let's try that out. Press 0, textured, press P, and there we go, we're going forward. So if we know we're going forward, we know that going the opposite value, so plus not minus, means we'll be going backwards. And press 7, go into top view, and you can see Y, so that would be D, I think. Yep, D, so that would be positive Y. negative y would be the opposite, which would be A. So now this should work. Yep, it's working just fine. Okay, and now so we can look around, select the camera, have a mouse, movement, and a Python script. Now this Python script I will have a link in the description for, so you guys can just open that up. Just a regular text file, really doesn't make a difference. Just delete the .text, just leave it at mouse.py and pop that in there. It really just is a name. I mean, you can have whatever you want, it's not going to do that much of a difference. Anyway, so now we've got that should be working now. Yep, cool. So we've got that sort of first person setup. So that part's done. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to add the cube that, well, this cube, and it's going to be a cube that sort of, the player when it looks at it is going to generate a lens flare. So when, what we're actually going to do, just move the cube somewhere in view. Oh no, here's just good. So we're going to select the camera, and then what we're going to have to do is select ray. What this pretty much does is it has like a little thing, sends out a ray from the very middle of the camera, and when that hits this, well, we're going to make it so that when this hits that, then it's going to pop up with a lens flare. So here it's labeled property, so this is going to need a property. We're going to call it sun flare. See, just like that. That's fine. It doesn't have to be integer or anything. It can be, yeah, it's just looking for a property, so I can't start changing it. There we go. Range, we probably want a bit more than that. So maybe something like 500 or 100. The thing is, when, like, from here to here, maybe 100 is like all the way over here, but when you have the sun in the sky like all the way over here, you're gonna have to set like crazy values like 1000 or whatever. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Just depends how close this lens flare generator is to the camera itself. So anyway, 100 will be fine. And then the camera's direction is -x. So just find that right here, and there we go. Alright, so appears we're having problems. Thing that I could change this to local, and local really does make a difference. So global is just the X, Y, and Z stay the same. Local, however, is the coordinates of the object itself. So if I go RX, then all of these arrows here are going to move with the object. So what we actually need to do is, instead of on global being -x, it's actually going to be, since we've rotated it so much, it's going to be -z. So I had this problem before as well. So this should work now. There we go. Continuously moving. We move away, stops, and it keeps on going. And it stops, keeps on going. There we go. That's that main part setup. So now what we're going to do is make a new scene. So just a new, it's fine. Shift A, and we're going to add a camera, and Alt R, and Alt G. Don't worry about that Alt T, that was a mistake. Just Alt R and Alt G, get rid of the rotation and location, and RX 90. And then what we can actually do is press 1 and then Control Alt 0. So that will move us to that. Just press G to move the camera around just a bit more. Shift F to sort of go into fly mode. Shift A. Now I'm going to add an empty. Now this empty is going to be called Sun Flare Controller. because this is going to be the opposite of the so this is going to, everything's going to be parented to this, and so when this moves, everything else moves, so it all pretty much just depends on that. So what we're going to do is add a mouse, add a movement, go down to Python, and what you don't want to do is select that, because we only have that one script, and that means it's just going to do exactly the same as our mouse look script. It's going to move the same way. So what we need to do is we need to go create new text block, and then open text block, and I'm going to go back into our folder where we found it, but this time instead of calling it mouselook.py.text, we're going to actually change it to flare. And the reason for this is because for the flare, as you notice, it goes the opposite way of which the camera is looking. So like if you move to the left, then the lens flare sort of goes off to the right and does bits and pieces and whatever. So it doesn't do the same, otherwise it would look strange. So what we need to do with the script is scroll down to here, and then it's really helpful, it's got this default settings part, and you can change the entire script for however much you want. Now all we need to do is change this to -1, and then that's all. We don't need to do anything else. What I tried to do to get it sort of to go a bit slower and stuff, like muck around with this value, but it really didn't help, especially when you spin around in a circle and then it just goes and screws up everything. So you can fiddle with these, but just sort of save this as a good sort of starting template, but don't screw any of this up. So just leave that in -1 and go in here and select flare. There we go. And I'm going to Shift A just to double check this works. Parent it to that, so Shift, select that, Control P, parent to object, and then going back to scene 1, we're actually going to call this main. I'm going to go to scene 01, call this flare. So now we're on the main, we'll go to, we're going to go to click the camera, and we're going to set in always, and scene, overlay scene. So this lens flare is going to go right over top of whatever the character's seeing. If that one ray hits nothing and can get, well, doesn't hit anything and hit this. So then go down to the scene and select flare. And we'll be done for that. So now if we press P, here we go. Doing the opposite of the, as you can see, of what we're doing, just as a lens flare should. And that thing is spinning, which we don't really need, so that can just... So that's that part done, and now we're going to go into flare, and we're actually going to add all our flare elements in. So right click the cube, X delete, go Shift A, plane, RX90. I'm going to straight along here. You can set this back to global, I just find it easier because otherwise you have like 50 different arrows going in all directions. Anyway, select, oh yeah, and important, call this flare 1. Name all your flares because you're going to have to be connecting them all up after a while, so that's fine. Turn the, why have we got both? Right, still blender render in this scene, so you have to make sure this scene is blender game. Then unselect back faces just because that causes problems with selecting it and stuff. Yeah, make sure transparency is on, things to 0, it should be fine. Go to textures, image or movie, open, desktop, and here are our lens flare elements that we made last tutorial. So if you haven't watched that or don't know how to make any of this, I highly recommend you watch that. I mean, even just to get the sort of gist of it. But these are all the main bits and pieces we'll need. You can add what you want, do whatever you like, but these are the basics, so you probably need to watch that tutorial first. But anyway, we're going to add our first flare. So let's make that a glow. We're going to have to add them all eventually anyway. UV, alpha, and in the materials as well, select shadeless, just so we don't get any annoying bits and pieces. So press S, tab, U, unwrap, UV unwrap it, and then select O1 or glow, and S, scale X or SX to scale, and then you can, we don't want to make it too small because these glowing features, like, even though it looks like it stops there, it still has a glowing thing, and you can sort of tell, sort of screws it up. Oh, and also the annoying thing, GLSL would help. It just seems to have reset everything in the scene. Anyway, yeah, so don't go like this, because then you can notice when you just have a cut-off plane like that. So give it some space. So that's fine. Parent that to that. And then to give this well, for the lens flare, we want to have like a certain colour that we sort of want everything to be like. You can't have something be like bright pink and then something else be like, I don't know, light green or something. It just doesn't work unless the colours are sort of relatively similar and not at extremes, like this would probably be. So what we're going to have to do is, that gradient file that we made is going to come in handy a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it, lens flare elements, gradient. And this is just a sun thing, but what we're going to do is change it to UV, and then tell it to, you can leave it on mix, but multiply is a full purpose of it. It multiplies these colors on top of this, so you can see these colors where there is, I guess, alpha, so where it's transparent you can't see any colors, and where it isn't transparent you can see colors. So that's how that works. We're going to go Shift A, another plane, RX90, scale it a little bit, give it new material, oh, new texture, new material, here we go. Turn the specular down, back facing, turn that off, transparency down to nothing again, new image or movie, open, lens flare elements, and this time we're going to choose one of the rings, so start with number 1. That seems fine, change it to UV, alpha, and then go back to the material, and I should actually make this bigger. Go back to the materials and click shadeless. So there we go, tab, U, unwrap, ring, GX, there we go, that's fine. This ring won't have that much glow, but yeah, still give it a nice margin to work around. And then, just so to save us time, we can click here, and then go into sort of sidebar, and add the gradient, to give us a gradient as well. So that's that done. Add another one. We should actually just make like heaps of these to start off with. Open lens flare number 2, UV alpha, tab, U unwrap, 2. So you can see it's sort of variance. You can give it a bit of a margin as well, but that should be fine. And just click here, go, there we go. So that's that one done. Oh, no, materials, I keep on forgetting this. Shadeless, there we go, fine. Open number 3, the rings we made, UV, alpha, tab, U, unwrap, changes to the image we're using, number 3, scale it down a little bit, that'll be fine. This one didn't have too much blurring, so we can scale it down a little bit. It's just the blurring part that sort of mucks around with the alpha and stuff. Oh yeah, and click here, and then give it a gradient. Make sure you select this before you go like that, otherwise you'll ruin this material. So click, boom, boom. So that's that one done, and now we just add the main facing ones. So we can add a plane RX90 scale, and this is for the moisture in the lens, so this is going to have to be just about as big as the camera. So I'm just using basic moves, scaling it. Should hopefully already know how to do this in Blender. But yeah, material, a new one, nothing, shadeless, back facing off, transparency on, image or movie, and this time we're going to go into here and select moisture. So that's why we had to make it the same size as the camera, so it's the lens. We could bring it closer and scale it, but it just works well at the back since we're overlaying it and all this stuff will be in front of that. But anyway, alpha, and go down to here, select that, give it that nice sun texture. So if we go tab, U, unwrap, then we go into moisture, GX, scale X, to scale it along the X-axis, so yeah, horizontally, I think, yeah. And scale X, do it again, so we just get the edges. So that's looking really good. Now what you'll notice is that is way too sort of like, especially these parts where it's coloured, that's just insane. It is too much alpha. So what we're going to have to do is scroll down here to the texture settings, not the material ones, the texture ones, turn the alpha to like something like 0.3, I found work good. So this works fine, or I think even just 0.2. Yeah, that worked good. So what we're going to do now is move that in the back, and then select this one, parent it, select this one, parent it, select this one, parent it, and now what we're pretty much just got to do is set it up how we like the look of it. So what I usually do is I have a big ring at the back, something like that, and then a nice big glow, I think, no, glow at the back, and a ring further up. So like the further back it is, the less it moves. So this stuff in the front is going to move like crazy. So something like that's fine. And then what we're going to do is press Shift D to duplicate it, and then GY, move along the Y-axis, and then S to scale it, to make this glow like a little bit smaller. Then move this one in. I like the blur on that one, so I'll make that one a little bit bigger. And Shift D, GY for that same glow that we just duplicated, and make it smaller again. Now this one we should probably make smaller as well. And yeah, Shift A, add one more plane, X90, scale it, press 0, go into camera view, scale it, so that should be good. SX, scale it horizontally. You want it just overlapping the borders, just in case something strange happens. You still, yeah, if there's slight movement, you still have it. So this one is going to be the sun flare we made. So the sun flare, I probably should have spent a bit more time on it, but yeah, I want to keep these videos as short as I can, so yeah, it'll be fine. So open up our sun flare, and wait a minute. Oh, that was a glow. Okay, just thought we missed out something. Sun flare. Ignore these crazy colors here. Okay, that's just the alpha playing up. Leave these settings. It's fine. Any colors that show up in previews and stuff, like yeah, these colors, just leave them. They'll figure themselves out. As long as it looks fine in here, you'll be fine. Like that looks horrible. Anyway, we'll just leave that, and I think that's just tab, you unwrap, and there's our sun flare. GX, scale X, and just in the border like that. GX, one more time. So that's fine. And then we should probably scale Z, making it a bit sort of nicer, and then have that behind moisture. That's not parented to anything because it looks pretty strange. But that's the main flare setup. So now we just need to toggle it turning invisible and on. So right now we're going to have this going the whole time. It doesn't look bad, but yeah, I don't know. That red ring around the outside of the flare is really annoying. Anyway, if you'd spent more time on that, that won't have happened. So there, what we see now, the only problem when these line up is the flare is above it. So you need to go to flare, GZ, and just something like that. Just so we can get it right in the middle. So that's fine. So just go like that. There's our basic lens flare setup. Done. So for them to turn on and off, there needs to be something for it to tell it to go on and off. Well, visibility wise. So what we need to do, the best thing to do to like send messages across different scenes, because you can do it in the same scene, but the flare's on a different scene, so it's a bit harder. You have to add a AND controller. You don't actually have to do that, it's fine. You can just drag it across. But anyway, add a message. I'm going to send this message to... Oh, I'm going to send this message to... And we forgot to name our flares, didn't we? Oh well. I'm going to send this message to... What's this called? Sunflare controller. So send it to Sunflare controller. There we go. Subject on. And just do body. I'm not quite sure what that does, but body works, so I'm happy with it. Set that one up, and one more to turn it off. It's a NAND controller. So what it's saying here is if it hits the cube, then on. And to say, well, this is NAND is like the opposite of AND, so if it doesn't hit the cube, then, and then we're going to make this thing here, Sunflare controller, and off, and body again, and that should work now, hopefully. So go to flare again, sun flare controller, and then we add a message at the start here, so it's looking for received messages. The subject for one was on. Go for another message, the subject was off. To end controllers, connect them up. And just click that arrow to make them smaller. It just saves time space-wise. Now we're going to add a... Yeah, now's the hard part. Now's when we should have labelled everything. So it's flare 1. We should call that flare 2. Flare 3. So just name all the ones that are parented to it. Oh wait. Or you can... We'll label those ones as well. There's flare 4. Flare 5. Is there any more? No? And flare 6. Now, as you saw in it, it looked a little bit strange, so I'm going to squish these a little bit together. Also, what you can do is, if you reckon it looks a little bit too harsh, turn down the alpha value. So go into here, click on this. You can go down to the bottom. Oh no, set that to like 0.9. Or make it less harsh. Make it look a bit more believable. Oh no, 0.8. Yeah, it's fine. Oh yeah, select the moisture on the lens, call it moisture. Select the sun flare, name it sun flare. Surprise, surprise. That part's done, so now what we need to do is B. So press B, and then drag and select everything in that box. And then right click, keep on right clicking until you hit this empty here. Now you have heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of these. Now this is a bit tedious, but for each one we're going to have to add a visibility controller. So add 2, one with visibility on and one with visibility off. Press this when you're done, do that. Just it saves space and stops you scrolling around and having to make this window huge just to work. And also the sun flare, you want to add it to as well. So everything that's going to be visible or, yeah, in the sun flare pretty much. So with that done, just to make this next part easier, we're going to press Control up while in this, and it will make the whole thing nice and big so we can work well with it. So with the on, attach the and to all the ones with ticks in them. So that will be the first one of every single flare. And then press Control down arrow to get rid of it. So now what should hopefully happen is when you press P, here we go. We move away, then we move back, and it's there, looking very nice. So as you can see, the lens flare is coming along quite nicely. The only problem we have right now, or one that was a pain for me, is when you press play, it's there. Even if we move the cube over here, it's still there. So if the camera's not facing it, it's there as we start. And that's really annoying. It happens with gun flares and stuff, and it took me ages to figure out anything, so I have to go on Blender Artist and ask how to do it. And it's actually really simple, because these are told to go on and off. You can... oh, that's meant to be visible. You can go and, you can just go ahead and go into the physics settings and click invisible, because the thing itself, if it's invisible or not, doesn't matter, because it's already getting told whether it should be visible or not. And we don't want it turning up at the start, just because it just pops up every time you start the game and it's annoying. So just select invisible for each flare. There we go. Moisture on the lens as well, and a sun flare. So now, press 0, P, it's nothing, and then boom. It's looking quite nice. Now, one last problem that I had in my example, when you, in my example here, the reason I didn't have this one lens flare in the background is because, just ignore that, that's just popping up right now, but pretty much for this reason, if you move it across like this, the sun flare stays in exactly the same place, no matter what you do. Pretty much, yeah, if you like it, I highly suggest you go and put it into your main scene, or where you'd want the sun to be instead, because yeah, it's just a real bummer. But if you guys can figure out any way how to make that sort of work better, I don't know, make it move with the empty. I sort of tried that, didn't work too well, but I know, move sideways. That's how to get the main lens flare part working, or how I did that. Sun flare actually isn't really that necessary, but yeah, that's how I've got everything working. So I hope you guys found the series helpful. I will hopefully be posting some more stuff, so be sure to subscribe if you guys found like any part of this helpful. I'd greatly appreciate it if you guys could, I don't know, just like one like or a comment saying this video is great or something. It would really make my day. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching this video, and if you like it, feel free to leave a like, and if you didn't really think it was that great, then give me some comments on how I can improve, because yeah, it's my first tutorial. So yeah, hope you found this helpful, and I'll hopefully see some of you around.